Hello everyone and welcome to the FRS as we start round 4 of the FRS GT Series here at Indianapolis as our drivers head out to start this qualifying session. It's worth us having a quick summary of some of the changes which have been made since the last round that was televised, which was round 2 at Kyle Army. So we have had a number of driver changes between some of the splits. So Kevin Nordemir has been moved from his previous gold split up into platinum, which is the highest of our splits. We then have Thomas Spike, who has moved from gold also up into platinum. So another one of our quick drivers moving up to our top division. We then have Gökhan Akdeniz, who has moved up from the silver to the gold split. And then driver currently sat in this pit lane, Vizo Su, has moved from silver to gold as well. And then our final move is David Moniz, who has moved down from the silver split into the bronze split. So hopefully we'll be able to find a little bit more of a competitive pace. And hopefully all the drivers will enjoy their nice new, well, where they find themselves now, and we'll be able to enjoy some competitive racing. And with all of those changes to the splits, we have some changes to the standings, but nothing which is affecting our lead drivers. And so at the moment, as our drivers all head out on track, I believe it is Conor McDermott who leads the way and is about to finish their first flying lap of the session, which is a 1:37.7, which is quickly beaten by Alex Ames in the Mercedes AMG. And then again, Thomas Spike now with the fastest lap of the session so far, so 1:36.4, showing a reasonable spread in some of the times. As more and more drivers join the session, we'll start to get an idea of what the competitive lap times look like around here. This Indianapolis Speedway, sorry, not the Speedway actually, this is the international course, which is renowned for its complete lack of grip. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers do, especially with the new tyre model introduced recently to ACC. As we can have a look at our order at the moment, it is our championship leader Marvin Helgert who takes over provisional pole position. With 1:36.1. I suspect by the end of this session we will see some drivers dipping down into the 1:35s with opening pace from Helgert there. I suspect we could even start to get towards the mid 35s. currently leading the way for the silver split is a Negro Civic in the MSF Motorsports Monster Energy Aston Martin Vantage. Solid positioning so far in this session, with just 8.5 minutes remaining. Would be very good for Civic to find themselves up there. And leading the way in our bronze category is David Lee in the Golf Iron Brew Racing by Crow Ferrari 296. And with a good 7/10 clear to the next fastest bronze split driver, that of Greg Harrison, Lee has put himself into a solid position to just keep on trying to improve through the session. And he's got a nice buffer to second place. As we look to find drivers on improving laps, Ewan Stitchbury is being hassled now by the Merc behind, who's trying to find every inch of the track just to get a better exit and get past the Ferrari, but no one actually has to move out of the way on these qualifying runs. If you're on a hot lap, you keep to your line. Doesn't matter if someone's faster behind you. As Lee puts daylight between him and Greg Harrison, up into P18 with a 1:37.6, beating a number of the silver split drivers now, and that is going to be a solid starting position from Lee if some of the other bronze split drivers do not find an improvement to their times. A driver to keep an eye on as they come around into the third sector of this track. Florin Matei, currently 3.5 tenths up on their previous best. Just the final sector to go and a little wide of the apex there. Will be throwing away a little bit of pace, but still on track for a decent improvement here. As they cross the line and go up into P6. The number of silver split drivers really putting in a good showing here tonight, moving themselves way up the order, with Civic, Stitchbury and Matei all finding themselves within the top 10. Let's not forget Rogers, who just drops outside the top 10. And as our previous season's silver split champion, Conor McDermott, finding himself a bit more pace, improved by a few tenths on that last lap, pulled himself into the top 20. He's looking for an improvement to his lap time. As we have a change in the provisional pole position, as Lastreg now first driver into the 135s, well 135.9, and is sliding that Mercedes through the corners. It's going to be leaving a little bit of pace on the table with that one, and perhaps the tyres just going away from him. He's not long into this stint though, so I think the tyres will still be in a good position, but Greg going to have to return to the pits, I imagine, as they are running off track quite considerably, aren't going to be making the best out of those tyres. Enter into the final 4 minutes of this session. Another of our Platinum drivers looking to improve. One of the few drivers to have stuck with the Honda into the third season of the FRS GT Series, Matthias Pentilla. And showing that the old Honda, the old VTEC, can still dice it with the best of them. Perhaps just too lazy to transfer that beautiful livery onto another car. But it is nice to see that painting out on track. And as Matthias looking to improve, they come around the final few corners. We've got a number of drivers out there who are chipping tenths off of their lap times. We'll see what Pentilla can do as they come around the final corner. I don't think it's going to be enough to improve their time. Just slipped away from them in the final sector. One driver who will be hoping to jump up is Christophe Demey as they cross the line up into P12. Well, what we're going to keep an eye on now is this battle for pole position as Marvin Helgert is unleashing the pace of that Porsche. Just the final sector to go. Needs to keep it tidy. Does the number one car, currently sitting P2 in the qualifying standings, but has found a considerable amount of time around this lap, and this will be a phenomenal lap once he crosses the line. 1:35.780 puts Marvin Helgert top of the standings for now with just 2 minutes remaining in the session. And so it's going to be up to Streger and Van der Heijden to respond to this. Although at the moment just looking like Streger who goes on their previous lap just 1/100th of a second slower than Helgert. Only needs to find a little bit of time, but doesn't have very many laps to do that in. There's our only Lamborghini driver out on track tonight, Elliot Hicks, in the Only Clown Racing Lamborghini Evo 2 is bringing it round the final corner now. And I think a number of drivers just opting to move away from the Lamborghini. It's not been that favourable a car, especially on the straights. And Hicks moves up to P17. As Thomas Spike is battling his way to try and get into the 1:35s. This could be a lap that jumps him ahead of Van der Heijden. Just needs to navigate the final sector. And it's a good exit round. Complete the final corner. This is going to be a strong lap from Spike. He comes across the line. It's a 1:35.8. Just 4/100ths of a second off of our pole man, Marvin Helgert. Although, let's not speak so soon about pole, as Lasse Streg is improving on this lap. But so too is Marvin Helgert, who's just ahead. So we're going to keep an eye on these two. Oh, as Helgert goes deep into the second to last corner. Not the third to last corner, sorry. and has lost a considerable amount of lap time, but it doesn't really matter because Streger has invalidated their lap and will not be able to improve. But just to solidify his position on pole, Marvin Helgert crosses the line with a 1:35.672. And as we take a look at our times as they are at the end of the qualifying session, pole position is Marvin Helgert, followed by Streger and Spike. Oh, we'll be back in just a short moment when this race here at Indianapolis will get underway. As our drivers pull away on their formation lap, you can quickly go through our starting order for tonight's race. On pole position, we have Marvin Helgert, followed by Streger, Spike, Van der Heyden, Civic, Ames, Stitchbury, Sumner, Antilla, and Lightbody, rounding out the top 10. And leading the way in the Platinum is Marvin Helgert. Of the Gold drivers, I believe, currently being led by Van der Heyden in P4. And then we have a Negro Civic leading for the silver split. And then in P22 is Lee leading in for the bronze drivers. As we have got return to the garage for both Hicks and Sue. Not sure if that is a failure to ready up or whether these drivers have got themselves grid penalties for tonight's race. As drivers come into the final sector now of this formation lap. Oh, as we've got a spinner in the background, and as we've got a little bit of time before we get underway. Let's find out who that was. Was that Simon Wander? It was not. Who was that? Rogers. They're back underway and they have slotted themselves back in amongst the order. So we are ready to get racing here at Indianapolis Speedway. As our championship leader and pole position man, Marvin Helge, looks to lead the pack away. He will be followed side by side by Streger, who is currently P2 in the championship, as we have green flags waving, and Helge and Streger side by side, and it looks like it's Spike who's managed to outrun Van der Heyden into the first corner. So far, so sensible, as we've got strong battling between our lead pair, but behind them, everything looking quite neat and tidy. I'm not seeing any yellow flags appearing. As these two have got a run on the rest of the field, as we've got yellow flags out for Ames and Pentilla. So what has happened here? Oh, and it's just a little bit of a mid-corner contact. We don't have live stewarding for tonight's race, so that one will have to be picked up after the event. But at the front of the field, still not much separating Helge and Streger as they come round into the final sector of the first lap. You see plenty of cars nose to tail as they come through the final sector. And as we finish the first lap, it is Marvin Helge leading Lester Streger. As we have got, I believe that is Ewan Stitchbury looking up the inside of Oscar Sumner. A slight bit of contact there as they're coming through the right turns of 3 and 4. Side by side for this entire sector. Lots of space given here between these two drivers. Respectful racing, but it looks like the double left-hander, Sumner with the inside, has managed to hold on to the position. This has brought Lightbody into the battle. He now gets into the toe of Stitchbury. Stitchbury still looking to the inside of Sumner, but a bit too far back to do anything about that now. As Greg Harrison is moving his way forward, wants to catch up to the leading bronze drivers of Muniz and Lee. As we've got drivers in the dirt there, look like that was Lee in the dirt going up the inside of McDermott. Good battling by this group here. Totally fair racing. As they come around to start the third lap of this race. Oh, is this contact? And I think that was Wilkes hitting the back of Lee and pitching him round. And that is frustrating. So early in the race to have that sort of impactful collision. is up at the front. Helga has not been able to drop Strecker, and it is the car behind this pair, Thomas Spike, who's currently holding on to the fastest lap and seems the driver with the pace at the moment. As we've got yellow flags out, there's Simon Wander, who seems to have made it back onto the racing surface. So nothing too eventful there, as Muniz appears to be dropping back somewhat and is now in the clutches of Greg Harrison, who's on a real stormer at the moment. Looks up the inside of our bronze split leader. But not close enough to affect a move, but the BMW has gone deep into the first corner. We check back in with our battle for the lead. Dragon and Helga still going at it at the moment, with Dragon just keeping that gap within about 3/10, consistently applying consistent pressure to Helga lap after lap. So far, Helga absorbing the pressure well, sticking to his lines, not having to drive defensive at the moment. Strecker not in that attacking position. This new Porsche not seeming quite as hampered with a lack of a straight line speed as its predecessor was. They're nose to tail through the first corner, barely a centimetre between them. This is a battle that will likely continue the remainder of this stint. Reminder for everyone, there is one mandatory pit stop in this race, in which drivers will need to refuel their car. No mandatory tyre change, but is a fixed refueling window, so it will take at least 25 seconds to refuel these cars. So for an extra 5 seconds they can get a change of tyres as well. Will be interesting to see what the majority of our drivers opt to go for. As in our pack behind the leaders, Christophe Demey looking to make his way forward. The gold driver amongst the silvers. So far, not much separating these cars out on circuit. Not many gaps have appeared into the pack yet, as we're finding some of the gold and platinum drivers just slightly out of position. Going to be looking to move their way forward if they want to pick up those all-important overall standings points by the end of this race. Christophe Demey not with the straight line advantage that the Ferrari enjoys at some of the other tracks, it appears. As behind us we have got the pro driver Nat Track looking to make their way forward, being given space by Greg Harrison. I think Harrison wanting to stick to the back of the platinum split driver and just try and use the space created to, sorry, not platinum driver, gold driver of Nat Track, to make their way forward and get past the lead bronze split driver of Muniz. You can see the different lines that the gold split driver is able to take over the bronze split. It shows the experience and the car control difference between some of our different abilities of drivers, but Natrat's still yet to find a way through, as is under no obligation to allow them through, as I think we've had an incident between the two leaders, as Strang is now down in 5th position. So let's see if we can get a replay of that. Oh, and there's contact between Streger and Helga. It was Streger that came off the worst. The Helga was round, so Helga now down in P3, and it is Thomas Spike leading the way. But Helga not dropped too much. Now only 1.7 back from our leader. And Streger also looking to make their way forward. And as last Streger looks to the inside of Civic. The silver split driver doing very well to find himself up in P4 at the moment. As Streger makes his way through, is now back with Helga, the next car in front of him. But with Spike and Van der Heijden leading the way in this race after that incident. Worth pointing out again, no live stewarding for this race tonight. So all of these incidents will have to be picked up after the race, so don't go assuming that because nobody's picked up penalties that the stewards think this is all okay. As we've had a change in position as Wilkes and Wanda go side by side through the third sector, and Wilkes running wide is going to be an opportunity for, Wanda running wide is going to be an opportunity for Wilkes. Try and make a move into turn 1. He's going to have to position his car well. It also looks like Garley's wanting to get involved in this battle as well. They're going to dare go 3 wide into turn 1. Going to be optimistic, but nope. In the end, neither of them really close enough, as Wilkes pushing the Porsche through the corner by the looks of things. As our previous bronze split leader, David Lee, after that earlier incident, now finds himself on the back of Benedict. As we have yellow flags in front of these two, and it's Wilkes and Wanda. And maybe we should have kept with this battle just a little bit longer. So what has happened to these two to find them out in the gravel as they were? And it's late on the brakes from Wilkes. And wow, that was quite the collision physics there. As we've got more yellow flags out for Spit, Pentilla and Rogers. What has happened with these three? Oh. Well, we didn't catch the start of that incident, but yeah, something's definitely happened there between those drivers. And Marvin Helga, with that pace in qualifying, is looking to try and catch up to the gold split driver of Van der Heijden. And not drop too far off of Spike, but with Helga being held up here by the looks of things by Van der Heijden, Spike is managing to pull a little bit of a gap out in front. with Helgut now being 2.9 seconds off the lead. There's... What have we just seen here? We've seen a change for position. I think this was Bakos getting past Matej, but how this happened? Oh, as Matej runs awfully wide, comes back on track, and that is Bakos up to P10. We check back in with Marvin Helgut, who wants to try and find a way past Van der Heijden as quickly as possible. Trying to open up the corners, find a way through. And all the time that Helgut is caught up behind Van der Heijden, Spike is extending that lead. Now currently sitting at 3.7 seconds over Helgut. As Brad Spitt and Conor McDermott going side by side onto the back straight. It will be McDermott with the inside line. They head into turn 7. As Brad Spitt held on well round the outside, heavy on the brakes, and McDermott having to take avoiding action there to avoid going into the back of the Aston. And that's now opening the door for, I believe that is Nattrack behind. This track looks to the inside, nothing doing there. As we have a battle brewing over P3 in the bronze split. Sorry, P2 in the bronze split as Struthers catching up to Moniz as Greg Harrison now leads the bronze split. There's James Struthers seeming to have slightly better pace at the moment. Last couple of laps just a couple of tenths faster. And we have got the first of our pitters from the front half of this grid, and it is Marvin Helgut taking a very early pit stop, seemingly wanting to just get out of the way of that traffic, and will bring his car into the box for that mandatory 25 seconds. We'll keep an eye on his box time, see whether he is taking new tyres. As we have a trio of Ferrari 296s. There's Tom Lightbody followed by Christophe Demey and Ewan Stitchbury. As Stitchbury troubling the back of Demey. I believe both of these are Scuderia CRA. So the team battle to try and get past Tom Lightbody. Both Lightbody and May in the gold split. sure what has happened to Struthers. Have they taken their pit stop? No, but they find themselves down now at the back of the field. The number 64 car. I don't see any incident for Struthers, but they were not long ago on the back of Meniz. So I imagine just a spin or a self-imposed incident. As Vizo Suit looking to make his way forward past some of these bronze and silver split cars in front of him. And should be a fairly straightforward move up the inside here for the Ferrari as they come down, start finish straight. Will Su look to the inside. He pulls out of the slipstream. Not going to be close enough, I don't think, to affect a move. Just applying the pressure, trying to force the BMW onto a bad line, but it's Wilkes who's trying to take advantage of it and preventing Su from closing his line. Oh, as there's contact between Su and the BMW, somehow everyone getting away with that. It looked like quite a heavy shunt into the rear as the BMW darting off track, coming back onto track at the apex. Some scary stuff we're seeing here, and quite the scrap going on over P19 in this race. And all this battling with Meniz has brought Lee and Hicks into this battle as well. So we'll keep our eyes on this for just a moment longer. As I can reveal, Marvin Helgett did spend 34 seconds stopped in his box, so that suggests to me he has taken new tyres as Vizo Suit makes the move up around the inside. Makes the move into turn 12, nicely done, and this also allows Wilkes to follow him through. And now Meniz needs to be careful, because although the next car behind is the silver split driver of Elliott Hicks, it will be David Lee who will be looking to try and make a move past as well. Although that BMW does seem to pull on the straights as Meniz looking to get back past Wilkes. And now it's Hicks's turn to apply the pressure to Meniz. Looks to the inside. Meniz just leaving the space on the apex, but will have the inside line into the right-hander. And this could be the opportunity here for Hicks. Goes to the outside, which will become the inside for the next corner. Hicks going to be able to be brave on the brakes. In the end, Meniz leaving plenty of space. And Hicks is through and can continue on to chase down his fellow silver split driver of Wilkes. The next position will be for a split position. As Lee, after that previous incident, now finds himself back up in P3 in split. There's a little mistake there from Meniz. So that's going to allow Lee to take the outside line. Changes to the inside, and that is David Lee up into P2 in the bronze split and P22 overall. This is Sven Klein, one of our gold split drivers. Is looking to make his way past Matei. I find himself a little bit out of position here behind a number of silver split cars. It does seem that the classification orders are slightly jumbled up in tonight's race, with a number of drivers finding themselves somewhere different in the stand as to where they'd expect, as Streger is disappeared. I suspect that is a connectivity issue, and we will ignore that one. As I believe Strecker has just left the session, so things going from bad to worse for Lasse Strecker, who is now out of this race. As we're seeing some drivers now take their pit stop early. So far, our drivers having taken their mandatory pit stop are Vizo Su, Brad Spitt, I believe Vizo Su and Elliot Hicks started from the pit lane, so my statistics on that are slightly skewed, but Brad Spitt, Marvin Helgert, Natrak and Simon Wander all have made their mandatory pit stop in this race. As Christophe Demey looking to the inside of Tom Lightbody, not quite the space there to be able to get the throttle pinned and get out of the corner quickly enough, so Tom Lightbody holds on to that position, but it's Ewan Stitchbury who's applying this pressure to Demey and forcing Demey to making some quite desperate moves there, as Demey and I believe also Stitchbury diving into the pit lane. But they're going to see if they can offset their strategy. And take advantage of some clean air to try and race Lightbody at a distance. As we're beginning to get some gaps now opening up within our field, we can take a breather and remind ourselves of our split leaders in this race. So leading the Platinums is the AMG Mercedes of Thomas Spike, who's been leading since that earlier incident between Strecker and Helgert. Then leading our gold split drivers is actually our second place driver on track is Luke van der Heijden, who has got himself a considerable lead over the rest of the gold split and is doing this all on merit, qualified quite well here and is now reaping the rewards of that good qualifying session, running in P2 and currently 8 seconds clear of the P3 driver, who is the Platinum driver of Oscar Sumner. Leading our silver split in P4, which is a very good showing for a silver split driver, is Eneglo Civic. He's now promoted up into P3 as Thomas Spike pits from the lead. We'll have to see where he emerges, as Marvin Helgert has pitted some laps earlier and has been pumping in the laps. And leading the way in the bronze split is Greg Harringzord, Greg Harrison, Harringzord himself, who very kindly made our intro video for the FRS GT Series. So if you enjoyed that, shout out goes to Greg Harrison. And is currently running in P13 overall and has got a considerable gap back to David Lee, who's P2 in the bronze standing. And Harrison actually challenging now the silver split driver of Garley. So a very good showing here from Greg Harrison. As we have another battle brewing in our silver split, as Elliot Hicks, who didn't have the greatest of qualifying sessions, now fighting his way forward right on the back of Wilkes. And so Thomas Spike now, having completed his pit stop, leading the way in this race, on at least net leading the way. And for It remains to be seen for how long, though, as Marvin Helget is now right on the back of Thomas Spike and is looking to try and take that net lead of this race after that earlier incident. Spike holding on. Ooh, and just running slightly deep into the corner. And that has allowed Helget through, as Helget will take over the lead of our pitted drivers and I believe the net lead of this race. It was certainly nice while it lasted for Thomas Spike and did well to come out of the pits ahead of Helget. But now just needing to bring those tyres up to temperature and has lost out on the net lead. As they approach some of the slower traffic now, having made their early pit stop, now find themselves behind the bronze split driver of Moniz. Could factor into this battle. Will Moniz leave the room for Helget? He does, so Helget should be able to solidify his position here, as Moniz just slightly getting in the way of Spike has enabled that gap to open up just slightly. And Marvin Helget is away now. P15 on the track, but we believe P1 in the race, taking into account the pit stops. So Christoph Bakos doing especially well, running in P4, has yet to make their pit stop, but is troubling the back of Tom Lightbody, who is a platinum split driver, no less. Oh, sorry, a gold split driver. But Bakos doing well, holding his own in P4 at the moment. We're just past the halfway point in this race. 28 minutes remaining. And with the majority of our drivers now having made their mandatory pit stop, I should start to see what the order will be, as Van der Heijden has emerged from the pits ahead of both Spike and Helget. So Van der Heijden, spending the least amount of time out of all of them, stopped in the pit box 33 seconds, as opposed to Helget's 34 and Spike's 38. So perhaps a sloppy pit stop there from Spike, just losing him out on that lead of the race. But Van der Heijden, the gold split driver, now in the net lead of this race, is catching on to the back of, I believe this is some lapped traffic ahead of him. Or actually, there's one lapped car ahead of him, and then the next one up the road is the bronze split driver of David Lee. And being caught out in this traffic is going to be hurting Van der Heijden. You can see Helget there catching up at a rate of knots. I'm sure Van der Heijden is going to be on the blinkers all the way around. The lap traffic gets out of the way. Oh, perhaps it could have got a little bit messy behind there, as Lee leaving them the space. And it's all getting just a little bit clumsy behind, as Helget and Spike are through. And the lead trio are back together on track again now. As Spike, still fighting back at Helget, is not giving up on that lead, at least in the platinum split. But Van der Heijden really showing his class here tonight, leading the way and actually seemingly driving away from Helget and Spike as they're battling so hard behind. So Thomas Pike using all of the track and then some. Sticking to the back of Helga, but still staying behind at the moment. So Helga able to drive his lines, able to try and maintain that gap to Van der Heyden, which is currently hovering at around 2.7 seconds. There's Helga now, with no traffic ahead of him, managing to extract the pace from the car once again and is pulling away from Thomas Pike. We check back in with Christophe Demey, our leader in the standings in the gold split, but is some way back now from Van der Heyden. In the standings, these two separated by 15 points, and this would be a good haul of points for Van der Heyden if things were to finish as they are. And could see Van der Heyden catching Demey considerably in the standings. And with Gökhan Akdeniz absent from tonight's race, will be a big change up in the standings. As Indianapolis Civic, having made their pit stop, is P7 overall, but still two of the Platinum drivers remaining to pit in this race. So Indianapolis Civic currently running in a net P4, under great pressure here from the gold split driver of Christophe Demey, and then Tom Lightbody behind. As Demey eyes an opportunity, not the space to get a car up the inside there, at least not safely. It does seem like Demey has the pace at the moment, but needs to have that advantage at the right time on track. Not many opportunities to pass here at this Indianapolis circuit, with so many twisty corners where you have to use the entirety of the track. Not much of an opportunity to get the car on the inside. Not many lines with not many corners with multiple lines through them. Really, you have to have your car alongside before you get into the braking zone, as we've got a car round in the background. That is Ewan Stitchbury. That is an interesting incident there. We'll go into the helicam to have a look at this one. What has happened here is Stitchbury running wide and trying to keep it pinned by the looks of things over the grass. It's too bumpy over there to be doing that, and that's a heavy hit in the wall. For Stitchbury, having already made their mandatory pit stop, is going to be asking themselves whether they need to return to the pit lane to repair that damage, because that is going to be quite a bit of aero damage to the front of that car. As we rejoin the battle over P6 at the moment. And it's Bakos who's looking like they've got the advantage over Lightbody at the moment. It's tucked up right under the spoiler of that Ferrari. It's Aston Martin followed by two Ferraris and then an Audi. So showing the bop is working here at this Indianapolis circuit. Barely anything to choose between the pace of these three. And to keep you updated on that gap at the front of our race, or at least the net front of our race. Previous time around for Van der Heyden, a 36.7. 37.0 for Helga. So Van der Heyden at the moment holding on to that lead and even extending in places, with Thomas Pike seemingly pushing just a little bit too hard, invalidating his laps, but crucially hanging on to the back of Marvin Helga. This race far from over. Matthias Pentilla emerges from the pits in P14. And Christophe Demey looking to try and make a move round the outside of Civic. Brave carrying the speed round the outside of the corner. Civic leaving him plenty of room there, not wanting to risk a collision. And it is Demey up into P5 in this race and P4 once they pass the pit lane, as Sumner is currently pulling into their box as we speak. And that is going to be important for Demey's championship. Puts him now just 3 positions off of Van der Heyden, who is currently responding well to the pressure being applied by Marvin Helge. But Neglo Civic fighting back as they come down the start-finish straight. It's going to have the outside line which turns onto the inside. Just needs to hold the car there on the outside. Not wanting to risk running the car too deep, and well, Demey actually missing the apex himself, risking the switchback, but in the end Civic is going deep as well, and that has actually allowed Tom Lightbody to come through, carrying the speed through that first sector. And Neglo Civic dropping back now, and now into the clutches of Bakos, and this is now a battle for the silver split lead, as Christoph Gergely Bakos has got to be trying to eye up an opportunity here with just over 18 minutes remaining in this race. There's been quite a lot of battling throughout, as we've just seen a change in position for P2 in the race. Let's see what's happened here. Thomas Spike getting his way past Marvin Helge. Oh, as Helge runs deep. Perhaps distracted by, I believe that is the Ferrari of Lee. Not sure if Lee was just slightly unpredictable there in his line, but didn't look anything too untowards to me. But Helge running deep, and that has allowed Spike through into P2. And all the while, that has allowed Van der Heyden to extend his lead out at the front of this field. So I think Lee now will surely, just back off a little bit, leave the space for Spike to come through. And that is Spike quite considerably far ahead of Helge now after that uncharacteristic mistake from the Porsche driver. Not often you see Helge making those kinds of mistakes. As we rejoin the battle over P5, which is slowly but surely now just evolving into a battle over P6, as Demey, now with the clean air out in front, is beginning to stretch his legs just that little bit, extending that gap to 1.1 seconds. And it's Lightbody under pressure from Civic, with Bakos just behind this pair. And we also have a battle brewing between Elliot Hicks and Garley. Elliot Hicks looking just a little bit more in control at this stage in the race. The Ferrari just a little bit twitchy on the rear, it appears, and Hicks using that to his advantage. And that glorious V10 engine that the Lamborghini shares with the Audi. It screams its way through the second sector. As we have a car off in the second sector, that is Simon Wander. And Simon Wander off the circuit again. Needs to be careful. There's running currently at the back of the field, so not got any positions to worry about, but needs to make sure he keeps it safe and doesn't pick up any penalties. But Elliot Hicks continuing to apply the pressure to Garley. These two seeming quite evenly matched, as it's this time around Hicks who's looking the twitchier of the two drivers. We've got battling now again over P6 in this race, as Lightbody holding the position from Civic. The two of them having to be careful as they navigate the traffic. I think just behind this pair we have got a battle over P4 in the bronze split, as Muniz, who was running so well earlier in this race, now finds himself at the bottom of the bronze split, but applying pressure to Benedict. With just 13 minutes remaining in this race, could be an opportunity. Just needs to keep applying the pressure. These bronze split drivers, it's sometimes just a matter of coaxing out a mistake. As Benedict taking the risk there that we saw from Stitchbury earlier on. Didn't quite cut over as much as the grass there as Stitchbury, and manages to hold on to the car, but will, I suspect, lose out on the position to David Muniz, who takes the inside line. And that is up into P4 in the bronze split, and that is P26 overall. We've seen Christophe Demey drop back a number of positions. See if we can work out what has happened here. Not sure if there was an incident causing this, or whether it was just a mistake from Demey. Oh, as Demey runs very deep. And brings it back to the circuit, but that was, wow, I think the deepest we've seen anyone go into that corner, and Demey losing out on a number of positions that he fought so hard for as well, and now finds himself 3 seconds back off the rear of Bakos, and well, he's got that work to do all over again. Ooh, was Bakos very nearly running into the back of Civic. Does well just to hold the brakes, keep it out of the rear of the car in front. They come now into the 30th lap of this race. Christophe dropping it back just a little bit from Civic, but with Civic tucked up right behind Lightbody, opportunities are still going to present themselves unless Civic can make their way past Lightbody. As it does seem like Simon Wander is having an absolute nightmare out there. I think he's spending more time off the circuit than on it. As Garley has been overtaken by Hicks. Let's see if we can see where that... Oh, no. Apologies, we cannot see where that move was made. As Bakos has made their way past Civic. But it looks like now Civic attacking back up the inside. And it's going to be Bakos with, so Civic with the inside line, but Bakos holds the position around the outside, late on the brakes, drives it around the outside of Nicola Civic. And Christoph Gergely Bakos up into P6 and the lead of the silver split, which he is currently leading in the championship as well. And with Ewan Stitchbury currently running down in P4 in the silver standings. This is a very, very good race for Bakos' championship. As Christophe Demey is now caught up onto the back of this pair. His race perhaps not having gone the way you would want it to. Losing those positions after that mistake. There's a driver we haven't seen much of tonight, who's now trying to fight their way back through, is Khalid Ramadan in the Conquest Racing Ferrari. Ramadan currently 5th in the gold split standings. Is currently likely to hold on to that position with where they're standing at the moment. Though with Vizo Su being further back, there will be outscoring Su, and with Van der Heyden still leading this race, things will change in the gold split standings. Nicola Civic has not dropped from the back of Bakos. These two still trading lap times at the moment. Just a couple of tenths between them. But with Christophe Demey, an ever looming presence in the mirrors of Civic, I do feel it is Civic under the more pressure at the moment. Bakos just concentrate on driving their lines, as it does seem like it is Civic who has to be the defensive driver at the moment. As we approach, or as we enter the final 6 minutes of this race, Thomas Spike has caught up to Van der Heyden and has considerably dropped Marvin Helge after that earlier incident of Helge going deep on the brakes. Maybe Helge just losing a little bit of confidence in the car, but it is Spike now with the turn of pace, and is catching up to Van der Heyden. The gap now half a second. And this is going to be a last minute battle for the lead of this race. with just 5 minutes remaining, and we've got a car exiting the pit lane. I believe that is, yep, that's, I think, Simon Wander leaving the pits. Just having to leave a little bit of space for all the cars around him. But Thomas Spike, having led this race before the pit stops, was overcut by Van der Heyden. And then with battling between Helge and Spike, allowing Van der Heyden to stretch his legs out in front. So now Thomas Spike, who's got the pace, seems to have the car under him and is setting the timing boards ablaze as he did the fastest lap of anyone last time around, and also holds the fastest lap of the race at 1:35.9, which is not too far off the pace we were seeing in qualifying, let's we not forget. But with just 3.5 minutes remaining, we will have 3 more laps of this Indianapolis circuit. Thomas Spike chase down Van der Heyden as we're beginning to approach some back marker traffic, as I believe that is the Lamborghini of Elliot Hicks we see in front of Van der Heyden, and it could be crucial for the outcome of this race how these two navigate the back marker traffic, and even just which part of the circuit they catch the traffic in, as Van der Heyden looks like he's going to catch Thomas Spike on the straight. Is Spike going to be a kind driver and move out the way? Doesn't seem like it on this straight. And all the more time that Hicks spends in front of Van der Heyden, or should I say Van der Heyden stays caught up behind Hicks, it's going to allow Thomas Spike to just look for an opportunity, look for those lines. And just about see Porsche of Van der Heyden just ahead. Thomas Spike. But the gap staying relatively steady now. And it does seem like Spike just losing just that little bit of pace. Was not able to extract everything from the car at the moment. Van der Heyden maintaining that gap at around 1.5 seconds. As Elliot Hicks moves out of the way for both of our lead cars, so no real advantage gained or lost for either of them. As we have yellow flags out for Ewan Stitchbury. What has happened here? Oh, there's contact through the corner as Stitchbury takes to part of a circuit that's not intended for use. Interesting route to recovery there for Ewan Stitchbury. Not sure if that really saved him any amount of time. As a Negro Civic now back up into... Oh, is there contact between the two lead silver cars? I believe there is. Or is it Christophe de... Oh! Heavy contact between Civic and Bakos, and that is why Civic is now in the lead of the silver split, with Bakos now dropping back down. Still holds on to P2 in the silver split, but it's down in P9 now, dropping back from P6. As that contact has also allowed Christophe de May through. As The clock ticks down to 0. And Van der Heyden holding this gap at 1 second at the moment. Just needs to keep his cool. Half a lap remaining to go, and there's a little bit of a twitch there at the worst possible part of the track to get it onto the back straight, and this could be an opportunity for Spike. Got the overspeed, but it's not enough to close up the gap. But now, for the rest of this lap, Van der Heyden is going to have his mirrors filled by the AMG Mercedes of Thomas Spike. And Spike has seen that he can coax a mistake out of Van der Heyden. Just needs to continue to apply the pressure. Just 3 corners remaining of this race for Van der Heyden. Just needs to keep it tidy. Nothing fancy required. As Luc Van der Heyden comes to cross the start-finish line, take his first win of the FRS GT Series, followed closely behind by Thomas Spike. Then it will be Marvin Helget who rounds out the podium. They're followed by Oscar Sumner. And next on the track is Tom Lightbody, who has to navigate some parked traffic. As he rounds the final corner to take E5. This cross line will be a Neglo Civic to take the silver split win. And then Christophe Demey. Bakos takes P2 in the silver split, and it'll be Matei to take P3. And we then have drifting it through the third sector. And the only bronze split driver to, I believe, be on the lead lap of this race is Greg Harrison. A valiant drive from Greg Harrison to not be lapped by our leader, and will cross the line P17 and leading, or winning I should say, the bronze split. This is followed by David Lee and Struthers in the bronze split. So congratulations to the winners of all of our splits tonight. Reminder, winning our race overall tonight was Luc Van der Heyden, followed by Thomas Spike and Marvin Helget. A very, very well fought race from all of our drivers. So, thank you very much for watching, everyone. And next weekend, the FRS GT Series will return. Same time, same place, when we head to, apologies, I've just been looking at the wrong one. We will head to Watkins Glen. So we stay in the United States for a third round of this season. We go to the fast circuit, very fast circuit of Watkins Glen, and see what our drivers can do there. That's it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I have been Roy Waller. The FS will return next week. Have a very lovely rest of your evening, and good night.